Israeli news outlets are reporting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu secretly flew to Saudi Arabia to meet with the Crown Prince. If these reports are accurate, it would mark the first known encounter between senior Israeli and Saudi officials. So let's jump right into this with Behnam Ben Taleblu. He is a senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and joins me now from Washington. Behnam, welcome. Great to have you with us. So neither Israel nor Saudi Arabia have confirmed anything, but how should we read into this reported visit of Netanyahu's to Saudi Arabia?
Well, great to be with you. I think it's highly likely that the visit occurred. It comes at a time when the U.S. Secretary of State is also in the region. That can't be forgotten. The role of outside powers in helping to facilitate this growing wave of normalization that we see in the region, a wave of normalization that I think is part of a larger trend of a diminishing America in the region, a rising Iran, and the Arab world really watching how Israel has been really the only country in the region to at least successfully roll back the Iranian threat and their interest in engaging with that actor.
Okay, I want to get to the U.S. role in all of this in just a moment, but, you know, as that old proverb goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We know that both Israel and Saudi Arabia are fighting proxy wars with Iran. So how might this alleged visit be perceived by officials in Tehran?
You know, that's an excellent point, because the old adage that you mentioned is being witnessed in the Middle East on steroids, you could say, because I think nothing has helped to drive this relationship closer than the prospects of a rising Iran, in particular how both states saw the 2015 Iran nuclear deal known as the JCPOA, how both states saw vacillations in Republican and Democratic, and then again in Republican and now in potentially Democratic foreign policy towards Iran, towards the region, towards regional security, as well as within the past decade, the diminishment of the Palestinian issue in some Arab publics and in some Arab governments. So Iran is likely to see this as part of a larger trend. Iran has had an issue with Saudi Arabia really since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And lest we forget, the founding father of that revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini, long castigated the custodian of the two holy shrines, basically the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and has competed with them for leadership of the Islamic world. So Iran sees this as a continued betrayal by Gulf Cooperation Council states to work with Israel to offset their rising power and influence.
Okay, so now let's get to the role of the United States in all of this. We know the strategic importance of Israel to the U.S., but how does adding Saudi Arabia to that relationship affect us in the region?
Well, you know, timing is everything. This comes before a likely Biden administration is going to be taking office. President-elect Biden is reportedly tapping senior officials who were involved in the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. So this could be a bit of a deja vu moment. You know, it also comes at a time when Iran is continuing to flex its muscles in the region. In particular, there was a cruise missile strike by an Iranian-backed group, the Houthis in Yemen, over into Saudi territory. So in essence, I think we're kind of locked in to a current course here, where these states see an incentive to work with each other to offset this Iranian threat.
And also, like you mentioned, timing is everything. In terms of Saudi Arabia, could they be sort of foreseeing a cooling, of their relationship with Washington under a Biden administration?
I think there's the potential for that relationship to be threatened, but something that could be a backstop against it, of course, would be Saudi Arabia bandwagoning onto this wave of normalization that we've seen, whether you've seen it from two states in the Persian Gulf, such as the UAE or Bahrain, or even now when there's talk of Sudan. Saudi Arabia, which again espouses to be the custodian of the two holy mosques, the leader of the Muslim world, and perhaps the largest Arab economy, both with oil and when you look at foreign direct investment, there's a lot at stake here. So there's a lot that Saudi Arabia could offer Israel to really cement its position in the eyes of Washington as a key player in the region and a key player for stability, both in terms of values and interests for America. And you've seen the Israelis be keen on bringing these relationships into the spotlight, relationships which began in a more covert nature, again, due to security issues like a rising Iran.
Right. So, Behnam, what exactly then is Israel's end game here? I mean, you made it pretty clear what Saudi Arabia can offer them in the short term as a strategic partner, that other countries in the region cannot. But where is all of this going?
Well, I think the Israelis have been cognizant of this shift in the region, which is the rising importance of Iran and the relative diminishment of the Palestinian issue, at least for lots of Arab governments. And again, you see that with the wave of normalization. So Israel, I'm sure, is keen to accelerate this trend and to provide some of these states a way out. Normalization is going to be likely the way of the future, but there are significant challenges, significant hurdles. And I think the Israelis are presenting themselves as a partner, being willing to overlook some of those hurdles and to work through some of those challenges. Time will tell. This is going to be a very rocky political transition in the region and for U.S. foreign policy. And I think, again, time will tell. But the Saudis have been much more incremental in their approach towards foreign policy than some of their Gulf Cooperation Council neighbors.
Very interesting. So are you saying within the Arab world, identification with the Palestinian cause may be perhaps weakening?
It's been an issue in the hearts and minds of the publics, but that public sentiment hasn't been broiled over. For instance, when the U.S. recognized the move of the embassy to Jerusalem, it hadn't been the cataclysmic end-of-days scenario that many experts had been forecasting. And I think the Trump administration's approach to peacemaking in the region, rather than between Israelis and Palestinians, focusing on Arab governments who actually share more in terms of their national interest with Israel, has, at least in the short term, proven to be more fruitful and more realistic.
All right. Well, Behnam Ben Taleblu, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your insight.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.